We know something is wrong in the Democratic Party or in American politics more broadly when Hunter Biden is the truth teller. It goes to show, what an outrageous hustle was perpetrated on the American public, not just by the Democratic Party, but also by pretty much all of the media, which went along with it. But these do look like documents confirming that high-level members of the Obama team, the DNC, the bureaucracy, were, to use the word that was very popular in 2016, engaging in an act of collusion.
Thank you so much, Dominic, for joining us. Hunter Biden has come out in a 3-hour interview, taking no prisoners, pulling his punches on the Democrats, on people criticizing his father for his mental state during the campaign, and including people like George Clooney and liberal podcasters. What did you make of the interview?
Well, it's nice to see Hunter is back and in such fine form. I look forward to him resuming his career as an amateur videographer as soon as possible. And of course, looking forward to him picking up again his sideline as an artist, because so much happens in Hunter's life. It's easy to forget that he was selling his pictures, which have no obvious artistic merit, for $500,000 a pop, at least when his father was in office. Since then, the whole family has come down somewhat. And of course, we know something is wrong in the Democratic Party or in American politics more broadly when Hunter Biden is the truth teller, that saying the things that no one else wants to say.
Joe Biden has reportedly got a book deal for $10 million for his memoirs with Hachette. Is that a fair price for Biden's memoirs?
I'm sure he'll be as amazed as we all are when he hears it. The thing about memoirs is the publishers always make extravagant bids for them, and yet mysteriously most of the copies end up being sold for a couple of dollars a few weeks later. It can't possibly cover its bases. Who would pay to hear the thoughts of a man whose thoughts are, on a good day half gibberish, and on a bad day a kind of surreal mixture of reminiscences and personal abuse? It's quite clear to us that key decisions in the Biden White House were not made by the president. So the great, or perhaps single merit of a presidential memoir is my life as the decider. Well, in this case, he doesn't seem to have decided much. For instance, signing pardons using the magic pen. And I suspect all kinds of decisions were made without him being aware of it. And this is obviously not legal, but it might even have been for the best, given the state the poor man was clearly in for much of his presidency.
If you're a US resident, let's face it, things feel uncertain right now. America's national debt, over $36 trillion and climbing. Inflation, still eating away at your savings. And the dollar, down nearly 8% this year, with more countries walking away from it. Meanwhile, the markets, one day they're up, the next day, trillions gone in a blink. So it's no surprise people are asking, where can I actually put my money and sleep at night? That's why more investors are turning to gold and silver. Gold's up over 24% this year, smashing records and soaring past $3,300 an ounce. And some analysts say we could see $6,000 gold before the end of Trump's term. And silver, it's heating up fast, driven by demand in tech, solar and defence. Some analysts say it could double in value this year. If you've been thinking about moving part of your IRA or 401k into gold or silver, tax and penalty free, our friends at Priority Gold make it simple. They're endorsed by Rich Dad's Robert Kiyosaki, ranked number 1 by Forbes and Financial Services Review, and trusted by thousands of everyday Americans. Right now, GB News viewers can get a free wealth preservation guide from Priority Gold. It shows you exactly how to add real gold and silver to your IRA or 401k tax and penalty free. Step-by-step plain English, no pressure, just smart information you can act on. Just scan the QR code, click the link in the description below, or if you're a US resident, text WEALTH to 24999. That's WEALTH to 24999 and claim your free guide today. The price of gold can go down as well as up. Past performance does not indicate future performance. Only invest what you can afford.
Hunter has defended his father, like I mentioned. He talked about the debate performance, which led to Joe Biden dropping out of the race. And he said that that was because he was exhausted, he was on Ambien after he'd been to Europe and, he was kind of jet lagged and everything. What did you make of this argument?
Well, I mean, perhaps it's true. I mean, Joe Biden isn't a spring chicken, and perhaps they had him on the wrong meds. Perhaps he should have dipped into Hunter's stash, and then I'm sure he would have been, tip-top fighting shape from the word go. He would have been unstoppable, I think. It goes to show, what an outrageous hustle was perpetrated on the American public, not just by the Democratic Party, but also by pretty much all of the media, which went along with it, until the very last moment when the party realized that they could no longer con the American public into voting for him a second time. The whole business is a disgrace, and there are so many serious malfunctions. It's a shame in a way if this one thinks it's so important gets lost, because, for instance, we're only now getting to the juicy bits, the paperwork about what happened in 2016 about Russiagate and the role of senior Democratic politicians and staffers in putting together what some of us at the time said was an obvious, implausible case that Donald Trump was a Russian agent. At this rate, unfortunately, it'll take us the best part of a decade to begin to unravel what the Bidens are up to.
Let's get on to that in a moment. Let's stick with Hunter just for a second. I want to quote from the interview that he just gave. So he was criticizing a liberal podcast platform called Pod Save America. And after the election, after Trump won, you have seen a series of Democrats and liberal media personalities criticizing Biden, obviously blaming him for their loss in 2024. They wouldn't do this until after the election, which says something, but Hunter has really gone after some of these Democrats, and this is the Pod Save America people. He called them junior effing speechwriters on Barack Obama's Senate campaign who've been dining out on the relationship with him for years, making millions of dollars. He described them as 4 white millionaires living in Beverly Hills, accusing them of presumably of not being connected with voters in places like South Carolina, black areas, and so on. So it's interesting, isn't it, that you're getting a bit of infighting within the Democrats, which is pretty rare. They're normally very unified on most things. And some of his criticisms are right, aren't they, on those Pod Save America?
I find myself yet again agreeing with Hunter on pretty much everything, apart from the bit about millionaires in Beverly Hills, because what's the point of being a millionaire if you don't live in Beverly Hills? I think it's true, and the Democratic Party clearly has lost touch with the majority of people in many ways, not just economically, but also in terms of values. And the Republican Party did much the same in the early 2000s, and it took a double shock of Donald Trump for them to really get the message. The split that's occurred since November's elections in the Democratic Party, if it goes down the same track as the Republicans did, is going to take years, and it could well widen. And I think it's quite likely to widen, because the degree of ideological lockstep is quite extreme. And also the fact that the party merged with much of the media and much of the bureaucracy is something that the Republicans, as they've reinvented themselves as a popular working man's party, the Republicans didn't at least have that kind of dead weight. But the Democrats are sort of lost in a hall of mirrors, you could say. And it's a very plush and comfortable hall of mirrors as well for the party. So this could take years.
Okay, so you mentioned this really interesting investigation into the Democrats and their kind of operations before the 2016 election. Obviously, that was Trump's first seismic, surprising election. And his connections with Russia were a huge part of the media narrative around that campaign in 2016. And it looks like the Trump administration now are kind of uncovering some details of how the Obama administration was perhaps behind some of these, I think it's fair to say, smears around Donald Trump's alleged links with the Russian government. Can you explain for viewers what what has been revealed recently, what the Trump administration are doing, why are they going after Obama in this way?
Well, Trump's director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, who's a long-term vocal critic of the swamp in Washington, one of the leading voices, I would say, of that among Republicans, has started, given an advance report anyway, with some release of documents showing meetings around strategizing in the 2016 elections involving senior members of Obama's cabinet, including John Brennan. I have to say that the chances, I think, of Obama actually being arrested, dragged from his surfboard, by the FBI or something, it's vanishingly small. But I think, let's face it, they kept a paper record, which of course is the first, as Hunter Biden and probably Donald Trump as well would tell you, is the first thing not to do, is to put it all on paper. But these do look like documents confirming that high-level members of the Obama team, the DNC, the bureaucracy, were, to use the word that was very popular in 2016, engaging in an act of collusion with the intent of swinging the election. And they very nearly did.
Obviously, there was a huge investigation into Trump's the Trump and the Trump campaign's links with the Russian government, the Mueller report, and it turned out that the links that were claimed, or at least collusion that was claimed, just didn't exist. It wasn't there. So, and that sort of tied up the first Trump administration in a huge amount of, political chaos for years. So it doesn't seem, you don't think there's going to be much justice at the end of this?
As a historian, I would say that the justice is simply having the information, that these things often can take a long time to come out and a long time to put together. But it seems fairly clear to me that already, only 8 years later, which is very quick in historical terms, already there's no grounds to believe that there was any Trump-Russia collusion at all. There are lots of unanswered questions in the details, and who knows how long it'll take to solve those. But I do believe that these documents are enough to put most people's mind at rest. And if their minds are not at rest, if they're wandering, as Hunter Biden's mind often wanders, that's probably because they are ideologically committed to the Russia collusion narrative. And large amounts of the Democratic voting public still are. One of the problems with the echo chambers of American media is the further you get into your echo chamber, the less updates you receive as to the actual facts when eventually they come in. So the number of Democrats until recently who believed in the Trump-Russia collusion was very high. I mean, I've read reports of over 30%, sometimes approaching 50% in polls, and polls being what they are, these are very, they're untrustworthy numbers, but still there is a large number of people who are still believing it, and it may take them years to discover that actually it never happened, and that the real story was the other way round, that actually their guys, the good guys, were using the organs of the state, using the media to stop the American people from electing a presidential candidate.
Obviously, another major story that has enveloped the Trump White House in recent weeks is the Jeffrey Epstein files and Trump's supposed links with Epstein that have yet to be revealed, or that he could be mentioned in these files. There's been lots of media reports around that here in the States. Do you think that Trump is implicated in a way that we weren't previously aware of? Do you think that's why he's been reluctant to perhaps release more of the files than he already has?
Well, I should say that I work for the Wall Street Journal, which is currently being sued for $10 billion by Donald Trump for publishing what they claim is a letter from Trump to Epstein from 2003, I believe. As far as I can see, the letter itself doesn't add or subtract anything from what we already know. And if anything, it would tend to confirm that, in New York, as in Florida, as in everywhere else, rich people tend to hang out with each other, and that the Trump-Epstein relationship appears to have been an entirely social one. I think we can say with certainty that the standards of behavior which were considered acceptable in one period of time became fatal to somebody's public life in another. Me Too, for instance, was a watershed. So perhaps Trump is concerned about reputational damage. Perhaps he's overreacting also because of the context of things like revelations about the Russiagate thing, that he doesn't want to be roped into something. The whole thing is a mystery to everybody. From my limited inquiries, I think it's daft to think that Epstein was obviously, as Tucker Carlson and people like that would say, was working for the Israelis, because the one thing you're going to do if you want to run a spy is obviously not find someone with a Jewish-sounding name, and secondly, not have the ex-Prime Minister of Israel, Ehud Barak, making repeated visits to his house. That's not exactly working in the shadows, is it? Nobody has yet produced any evidence as to what Epstein was doing. Nobody has produced any evidence that he wasn't doing some of the things he's been accused of. And I do think that there is a sustained association with dodgy dealings in Epstein's life, arms dealing, money laundering, and perhaps, working for multiple intelligence agencies. But I think they were probably American intelligence agencies before he was deeply involved with anyone else's.
Do you think it's curious the Democrats are taking up this Epstein issue as a major weapon against Trump and his administration at the moment? Obviously, they've never really said anything about it until the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, well, that is a good point, because the circles in which Epstein was moving in the 1990s in particular were the circles of the Clinton-era Democratic Party. The same fundraising parties, the same people were the paths that he was crossing on a regular basis. And if you were to chase this down the rabbit hole and map out Epstein's social life, or at least the visible parts of it in the 1990s, you would find it was a who's who of Democratic Party fundraisers. And at that point, of course, Donald Trump was, still earning a decent living as a property mogul. He had yet to go into television or politics. But he, of course, was, in those circles as well.
Well, he donated to the Democrats, so he probably was part of that kind of Democrat elite.
He needed permits. Yes, he needed permits for the work that he was doing. Of course he donated.
All right. Dominic, thank you again so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Stephen, thank you.